Waiting. Oh, it says we're live. Hello, welcome to Let's Drone Out. We're on episode 426, and today we have over here the moustache loveliness of Stephen.
Hello, good evening.
Down below, we have MARIOFPV, who's our special guest tonight.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. And I'm everyone's favourite curry kitten. Hello. And we've just had a wild Jack appear. Are you coming on, Jack? Bink. There he is. Jack's here. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Very good.
Brilliant.
So, the point of this show is to learn all about OpenIPC. I've been getting a lot of pings about it, and people have been getting quite excited about it. And someone who's been pretty much at the forefront of producing videos for it is this guy down here, Mario. And we'd like to thank Mario for coming on, because if you've watched his videos, you will know that he puts out a lot of videos, but he doesn't talk on them. So he's a little bit shy, but he's agreed to come on and speak to us tonight. So
and most
welcome.
Importantly, he knows a lot about the topic, so we're looking forward to hearing what he's got to say.
That's what we're wanting to hear about. But before we get into that, as we ask everybody, it's like, how did you get in the hobby? What is your background? Why did you start flying things, and what led you to it?
So I started flying drones back in 2017 when I first came in the United Kingdom. Originally, I'm from Greece. So when I was here, I was with another friend here. Actually, we were in Manchester, outside of Manchester, in a small village. So he was flying his drone, and I put his goggles on my head, and it was really amazing experience. So I said, yeah, I have to buy one of those drones and start flying. At first, I started with a very small toy drone. I crashed it many times, but then I discovered Clean Flight, and that's when actually I started buying components, and I started building my own drone, which ended up having, instead of Clean Flight, later I discovered Inav, and that's where actually I replaced Clean Flight, which was a little bit older software compared to Inav with so many new functionalities. So at around 2019, I think, 20, I discovered, until that time, I was flying just analog, like most of us, I guess. And then I discovered OpenHD, which was really amazing it was very cheap, low budget, digital FPV system, which I decided to get involved. I started doing some test flights. At that time, I remember the developer was Stephen Oliver. I believe most of you guys know him already. And he did some amazing job. But then he quit OpenHD. He completely abandoned the project. But we continue working with some other developers on OpenHD. We did some testings and some test versions, actually, mainly. That was when Jetson Nano started to be getting more popular, and everyone started buying Jetson Nanos, and we decided having our first Jetson Nano drones.
That was quite different, because the Jetson Nano was quite a big thing compared to the Raspberry Pi, where you could put the Pi Zero on. It's this big. The Jetson Nano was like, here, you could almost just bolt quad parts onto the Jetson Nano. It was that big.
Yeah, so the first version was actually a full-scale Jetson Nano on a drone. It was very bad idea, very wobbling, not flying that great. But then I discovered there was a carrier board for Jetson Nano that was able to put only the small part of the Jetson Nano, which was without the main carrier board, but only the very basic parts. It was quite expensive at that time. I remember I had to pay £120 only for the carrier board, and the Jetson Nano was around another £50. At that time, it was that that was the price of Jetson Nano. So anyway, I managed to put everything together, and one company sent me a really nice camera with the IMX415 sensor for Jetson Nano, and at that time the OpenHD wasn't able to have long range because it was still under development. Later on, though, we discovered a Wi-Fi broadcast next generation, WFB-NG. I'm not sure if you have heard of that. I have published a few videos for that, and also some video tutorials that explains a lot of things about WFB-NG, which is a good time, I think, to give a shout out to Vasily Evsinko, the owner of WFB-NG. So, and it was compatible also for Jetson Nano. It was compatible for laptops, for everything. Also, OpenHD actually forked WFB-NG and made their own version from the WFB-NG. But something there was a small problem with the WFB-NG. It was that the hardware was very expensive. So the Jetson Nano that was able to do H.265 encoding, it was like 160, 170 pounds only for the air unit.
If we just go back to the reasons for that WFB-NG, that the motivation there was to make the easy Wi-Fi broadcast work better specifically for video, right? To kind of line up the video transport and the Wi-Fi system.
The WFB-NG actually added encryption to the video, and that enabled us to have more than one person next to each other and fly at the same time with different frequencies and encryption. Also, it boosted the range because it had variable packages, and that's exactly the same principle that ExpressLRS was using, variable packages. So that's what Vasily did. So he took the WFB first version, which is the Wi-Fi broadcast. It stands for Wi-Fi broadcast, and improved it, added some features, and make it universal. Universal means that you don't need to be only on Raspberry Pis. You can use a laptop, you can use a Jetson Nano, or you can use an Orange Pi. I'm not sure if you've heard of Orange Pis. So you are not bounded into a hardware only, but you have a lot of options. But like I said, back to my sentence was that it was very expensive. And that's when OpenIPC came. Because OpenIPC the cameras costed like this camera costs 12 pounds. And it can encode H.265, and it can have WFB-NG inside installed.
So that's not just the camera, that's the equivalent of the Raspberry Pi itself and the camera module all in one board.
So this chip over here, that one, is actually what encodes. The sensor is here in front, okay? Yeah. So that chip is the encoder, and this is the memory, which has a very small memory. That is a problem. It's only 8 megabytes.
That's
very, very small. Yeah. That's really small. But it's enough. It's more than enough to fit Majestic. So what is Majestic? Majestic is the creation of Dmitry Ilin. I think I'm pronouncing correctly the name. He's the owner of Majestic. It's basically a streamer, a G-streamer, an alternative to G-streamer that has a lot of profiles. It can do better encoding compared to G-streamer, right?
Is Majestic where the interaction with the hardware video encoder comes in? That, GStreamer could use like an AMD GPU, but Majestic can use these embedded encoders?
To be honest, I'm not a specialist on Majestic. Dimitri knows about Majestic, and he is the one who actually editing and correcting any things inside Majestic. So I think it's better for
no problem.
Dimitri to reply on Majestic things.
Sure.
Most of them, I don't understand them as well. So
okay,
that's cool. But the reasons you can get these cameras so cheap is the economy of scale. So these cameras are basically repurposing the modern sort of remote nanny camera and stuff like that. The sort of webcams you'd see, so you can monitor your house and stream it over the internet. So the silicon's already been developed, and it's just a case of repurposing them.
So this hardware exists everywhere around us, especially in the United Kingdom with so many cameras on the streets. I'm pretty sure most of them are like that, very similar hardware. And they are using very, very basic software that can stream 1080p 25 frames per second. 25 frames per second is nothing for FPV. It's not good, right? But what the developers of OpenIPC did was that they took the hardware and they created a firmware to boost everything on it. So instead of 25 frames per second, now we have 50 frames per second. 50 frames per second is not that bad, or 60 frames per second for that camera. And there's another camera that it's still under heavy development recently that can do 120 frames per second. It is made by Sigma Star, which is owned by Realtek. Have you heard Realtek, the audio? So yeah, it's a big company, and that's why this hardware sells in thousands worldwide. There are thousands of those parts everywhere around the world, and that's why it makes them so cheap. And we managed to bought them that cheap, and now we are developing on them.
That's fantastic. So you've got 8 megs of flash. Is that enough to run a web server to interact with the camera?
So there is a web server, but we're not really using them. We use SSH to log into the Linux. It's Linux basically. It's a very small, compact Linux that you need to know some very basic commands. Really basic commands. You don't need to be an expert of Linux, because everyone hears, oh my God, it's Linux. Oh my God, it's so scary. It's so many things are happening to Linux, and I don't know them. I'm a Windows person. It's not like that. I mean, you know how to edit a text, right? Everyone does. Yeah. You just edit a text following the instructions, and if you have any questions, there is a big community.
Control Q to enter. Right.
Very simple commands. It's not something that you need to be a developer.
You've got that VI muscle memory. That's all you need, right? Just remember how to.
I can only use VI in Linux. I don't know any other editors. One thing you mentioned to me earlier, Mario, that people possibly don't know is that how long OpenIPC has been going, and the fact that it's not just for FPV. Quite the contrary, isn't it?
Yeah, OpenIPC has been around for years. I think 3-4 years at least. Because they are using OpenIPC for many other projects. I mean, OpenIPC FPV is like a small ant compared to an elephant. I mean, this is nothing. For example, they're using them for fishing or for diving underwater and explore the sea or the seabed. So there are many applications for OpenIPC that they're using them worldwide. And of course for surveillance, that they are using them for professional hotels, casinos, and a lot of things worldwide. And so there are actually 80 developers in the team, 80.
That's a good project.
Worldwide.
That's
it's
a good bus
very
factor.
busy code base. Looking at it, there's a lot of check-ins and a lot of well, all sorts going on.
Yeah, and we're using only 3-4 cameras from so many options that there are. But we chose those ones. Maybe in the future we will discover a better camera, which will cost around 20-30 pounds as well. And then we will discover that it has a better sensor, or it has everything is so new into FPV. Like it's been like 5-6 months, the first good actual firmware that you can just flash and go out and fly. It's really new for FPV. But it's very fast growing, and we can see that from the numbers. My numbers, my channel's numbers have been exploded last 2-3 months, just because probably everyone wanted that to happen. Everyone wanted an affordable digital open source FPV system that you can just plug and play. And speaking of that, there are future plans to have a European-based warehouse and an American-based warehouse that the developers will sell ready-made bind and fly hardware.
Ooh,
I forgot to mention that we also have a VRX now, a ground station hardware.
So I read some of the install guides, and currently the install guides mention things like writing your own version of U-boot onto the hardware and things like this, which, you know, I've worked with like Wi-Fi routers. I've got wireless routers here that I've flashed, and typically I haven't needed to mess with U-boot, so that kind of scared me a little bit. Are we going to be able to rely on the vendor's U-boot soon, so that we can at least just maybe flash from a web UI, or flash more easily without having to actually go down and replace the bootloader?
So the bootloader, you change it only once when you want to go from the stock firmware, to the OpenIPC firmware, and you will just need one of those, an FTDI adapter that costs 2-3 pounds. Maybe most of you guys have one. So it's not that complicated, because there is a software from the vendor, actually, from HiSilicon, that all you need to do, you download it, you plug your FTDI to the UART of the camera, and you just flash it. Or if you are a Linux person, you use some Linux commands. Or it also has, OpenIPC has another tool called Burn, that with this tool you can run it on Windows, you can run it anywhere you want. I think it works even on Mac. And you can actually replace the commands or any software from HiSilicon to flash it directly, the bootloader. And once you are into bootloader, then you don't have to do it again. You can just throw away your FTDI. Everything will happen through SSH. You will system upgrade. And there are something that I noticed on OpenIPC is that the updates are coming every day. There is a channel, actually, that you can see them. Now, as we speak, from 8 o'clock until now, 34 files have been updated. 34 new firmwares have been uploaded. It's constant updating and development, because there are so many going on at the moment.
Okay, so I'm going to say, right, you've sold me on this, and you haven't even mentioned the latency you're getting at the moment, which is pretty amazing. And as you say, you were flying today, it was feeling quite like DJI. But so I'm a person with a quad or a plane, and I want to get OpenIPC running. What do I need in terms of the hardware for my transmission and receiving? Is there something I can buy right now before this sort of pre-made hardware is ready to go, or do I need to start ripping things apart and stuff, how do I go about getting myself a setup?
Yeah, so you will need obviously a camera, an OpenIPC compatible camera. At the moment, there are 3 or 4 compatible cameras that worth to mention. In theory, all of them are compatible. In theory, but we haven't added the very important component, which is the WFBNG. And that is actually the transmission, the link between the camera and the ground station. So we managed to do that into the Goggle cameras, the high silicon cameras, which is basically very similar in terms of on performance. You can see all the supported cameras on the wiki. There is a wiki of OpenIPC, so you can go and see. And there are some links that you can actually click the link and make sure that, and you will be sure when you buy that specific camera from that specific vendor, it will work, because and probably you've already know that Chinese are not so reliable in terms of what they say on their websites. They advertise other things, but actually there's something different. But those links that we posted on Wiki, they have been confirmed.
Is this the Wiki page we're talking about for the supported devices?
No, this is.
I'm in the wrong wiki. Help me.
Hang on.
I think there's actually
yes, that's the one.
.org. Okay.
Oh, okay. So these are all the current.
No, these are the cameras of OpenIPC generally.
Oh, I see. So I need a specific.
There's a subset for FPV then.
So for FPV.
Where's that hiding? Is it down here somewhere?
I think FPV kit.
Oh, I see. Yeah, FPV kit. There we go. Now we're kicking. Right, IPC board.
That Goku one, the GK7. What's that? There was a V200, but that seemed to be sold out. The only one I could see went up because I went looking on AliExpress. I could find a V300, but not the V200.
It's compatible. V300 is compatible.
Okay.
That's a network card.
And I also saw it mentions antennas with the board, but it looked like you were actually attaching a USB Wi-Fi adapter to get improved power output.
Yeah, well, you can use any Wi-Fi adapters that has a RTL 8812AU chipset.
Realtek, okay.
Realtek, yeah.
So it has to be that Realtek
or Atheros.
Okay.
Or
Qualcomm
Atheros ones. Okay. Yeah.
So the boards don't have Wi-Fi on them. I was kind of expecting with a CPU and video encoder that they put Wi-Fi on the same board, but it's always a daughter board, is it?
No, they don't come with Wi-Fi. They come only the encoder, the chip that encodes, and the sensor. So you need two adapters, one for air unit and one for the ground station. That needs to be either on 2.4 gigahertz or 5.8 gigahertz. I think it's wiser to use 5.8 gigahertz because the 2.4 is very noisy, especially here in the UK. It's everywhere, 2.4, unless you are up in Scotland, somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm flying around the park. I look at my dynamic power output that I keep obviously locked at 25 milliwatt, but strangely it seems to jump up to 1 watt all the time when I'm only a handful of meters away because of all the Wi-Fi. There's a lot of Wi-Fi noise.
Okay, so we've got the camera and the Wi-Fi device for the camera. We need another Wi-Fi device for the ground station. So what's our sort of processor on the ground station to get our stuff back from the Wi-Fi? Oh, hello. My camera's just mad. I made a gesture to my camera and it went crazy. Don't wave your hands.
It looked like you did a Jedi. These are not the droids you're looking for, and it took that
somewhere
to be
else,
a zoom. Yeah.
I've zoomed in. Sorry about my face.
For the ground station,
ahead,
you have a lot of options. You have basically a Raspberry Pi as an option if you want to decode H.264, or the new Raspberry Pi 5, which decodes, I've heard, H.265 as well. The Raspberry Pi 5. You have the Jetson Nano, if you already own one. Otherwise, you can use any other Jetsons. And you have a laptop, if you want. You can install on your laptop Linux and install the WFBNG, or use this. Where is it? That stick, USB stick flash disk. That it's also it has pre-installed the Linux. I have uploaded on one of my videos this version. If someone doesn't want to actually install Linux on their laptop or their desktop and just want to try it, all they need is one USB stick of 32 gigabytes and just try it as a ground station. And then we have, of course, in my personal opinion, the best option, which is actually this.
Not bad.
It's actually a VRX, DIY VRX. That all you need to do is just you plug on the HDMI. So it has an HDMI port, an Ethernet adapter, 2 USBs, which one of them is connected on one of the Wi-Fi adapters, and the power cable.
Hey, no hot glue, no tape. It's almost ready for market.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like you might need a bit of a counterweight at the back of your head just to stop it falling forward on your nose. So what is inside that VRX? Is it?
So yeah, it's a board that actually decodes very, very fast. It's a very fast decoder, H.264 or H.265. And the best part of all, it costs £14.
I like the numbers.
Perfect. Okay.
I suppose the question is, Mario, do we all jump in and start going like, oh, let's buy hardware here, or do we say, oh, actually, OpenIPC are going to manufacture their own stuff, and it's going to be pre-done, ready to go? Do we just wait for that?
I'd quite happily pay an extra £5 to the OpenIPC project to buy the hardware through them and have them fix the bootloader, and they
could do the bootloader, they can SSH in and do all the config. It's like you just plug it in.
Yeah, that's the plan. Like I said, the plan is to actually have ready-made hardware. We already had that hardware. We just discovered it now, and we are working on it. We don't have to build new hardware. All we need now is the software, and the software. It's up to our free time, actually, because not all of us have free time to put on that. And all we're asking is support. Like anyone who wants to get involved, anyone who wants to start doing testings, or if they know how to code in C++, please come and find us and get involved.
That's wonderful news.
Yeah, because we believe that digital FPV is something a standard now. I mean, very few people I know that they are flying analog. And we know that all the new systems, they are really nice, really good. DJI, Walksnail, HD0. They are really nice systems, but it's quite expensive for some of us. I mean, I already own the DJI system.
And it's closed. You can't buy the hardware. You can't buy the HD0 chips.
Exactly.
You can't buy the Artisan hardware inside of DJI and Walksnail. It's not on the common market. And the people who sold to Walksnail have said that that the people they're buying from are not going to sell to anyone outside of China. So it's unobtainable hardware, even if you knew the software. So you can
buy this everywhere, yeah.
What's the OSD like? We had someone pop up, Durgood in the chat. Thank you very much for lots of informative snippets in the chat. has had chimed in on lots of things and mentioned that there's an on-screen display on the ground station that's running off Mavlink telemetry. So you can enable that obviously in Inav and ArduPilot, probably in Betaflight, although how the implementation is, I'm not sure.
This is a pretty new thing, isn't it? The first time I saw your OpenIPC videos, it had nothing. So literally in the last couple of weeks, the OSD has just popped along, and it's picking up the Mavlink packets from other things. I was just trying to find a video to show you guys. It's around here somewhere.
Yeah, so that's where I got involved actually into software developing in the project. Me and Andre were working on that VRX, the NVR. That's how we call it, NVR. And so I added the OSD in that firmware, but it was actually based on Mavlink, and all I did was just I translated the Mavlink commands into OSD. Yes, that's the one. Yeah.
Very nice.
So this is something very interesting. I forgot to mention that earlier. Like I said, we have the Majestic software that is actually doing the video encoding. There's also another encoder which is fully open source, the VENC. The VENC, I think we should find another name for that, because VENC means video encoding and VDEC means video decoding. So VENC and VDEC was actually the first version of this system that you see now, that video. Yeah, it was Andre's job, which is amazing. He made an amazing job on that. Actually, I used Andre's firmware and WhoIam2. I think that's his nickname. I don't know his name. Like I said, there are so many developers in that project that I honestly don't know them all. So I mixed those two firmwares to create the first version of that video that you just saw. And all I did, I just added the OSD into the C++ source code. But then another person that I would like to mention is that Bang Din created a new OSD, which is based on LVGL. Anyway, this is quite deep into source coding, but with this,
I think I heard the X guys talk about LVGL when they're looking for a lightweight way to draw screen widgets. So I guess it comes up in the context of low
now
graphics.
Now we are working into a more highly sophisticated, better OSD, again based on Mavlink. So really soon we will have the first version. There are a lot of things that need to be addressed. But yeah, he did a really nice job. Added this OSD on LVGL. Like I said, all of us are just contributing, and we are just using our free time on that, because we believe that we want to have an open source, low budget, very, very cheap. Like if you add all these prices that I just mentioned, it's like roughly £50 for everything, right? So £50 to have an all-included digital system. You just need, of course, goggles or a monitor for that to be fully working. And yeah.
Well, I'm sold. So I suppose the question we'd have, aside from the fact that how do we get it and how do we do it, which is like read the wiki and buy some stuff, is what's the immediate plans from your point of view towards the FPV part of OpenIPC? What's the plans there in the next sort of 6 or 12 months?
Of course, we want to perfect completely this camera, the new camera with 120 frames per second or the 90 frames per second and 1080p. To be honest, I prefer that mode, because the 1080p is much better compared to 720p. And I was flying today with 90 frames per second, and I couldn't feel any latency at all. So the future plans is to perfect that camera to make sure that it's working flawlessly, and then improve a little bit the VRX, the VRX part. Also, we would like to add support for more Wi-Fi adapters, because there are a couple of one or two more adapters that they can support monitor mode and injection package for us for them to be compatible with the WFB-NG. And of course, when we feel that we actually have some people that they want actually to buy it and use it, then we will start building ready-made bind and fly kits that we can just ship them worldwide. But for that to happen, we need support from the community, because I forgot also to mention the owner of OpenIPC. There is an owner. The owner of OpenIPC is Igor Zalatov, that he keeps telling to people that no one is actually putting any donations, or not even £2 or £5, just to show their support, because all these they are software engineers. These guys, they are working as software engineers, and they are doing that in their free time, the OpenIPC FPV, and no one is paying them. Of course, in an open source project, you're not expecting to be a millionaire, and no one wants actually to donate. No one is asking from anyone to donate £1 million. They're just asking to donate £5, because £5 will not make anyone a millionaire or a rich person, right? It's just you're buying a coffee to someone that wants something for everyone. Unfortunately,
yes,
only
and
3
perhaps it's the problem that IPC, from our point of view, from FPV, is starting to get known about. But at the moment, it still looks a little bit like, oh, this looks complicated. I think it might scare people off if they're not from a technical background currently. So hopefully, one of the things that can be done is, we can make more sort of easy step-by-step guides. It's like, buy this camera, buy this thing, you connect them like this. This is how you flash the software, and look, I'm flying it, and this is my latency, and this is how the picture looks, and it costs this much. I think that would be quite a compelling case for people, and as soon as that gets known about, perhaps that will make a change in terms of things like donations or support from that point of view.
You have a point, Wayne. I know. Do you know how many times I've heard this step-by-step tutorial or step-by-step guide for
I think the problem is if you
I try my best, okay, but unfortunately, I'm the only one who is actually doing something for the community, for everyone to understand the project. There are some Russians that they do that as well, but it's in Russians, and I don't talk as well, because I cannot sit in front of a camera and talk. That's my first time.
You're doing a great job so far.
Really well, really well. Thanks for coming on. I mean,
Yeah.
we've learned a lot, and I think no one's really talked about the project so far. So, and unless you're on the chat server, you're not really sure what's involved in OpenIPC. So I think you've opened a lot of people's eyes to it. It's really good to see.
I think the problem can be if you're not from a sort of software engineering background, or you've not worked in Linux before as well, just the very mention of the word, for people who've only ever seen Windows, they like, oh my god, I've just lost my brain. What do you mean? There's a command line to edit a file? All these sort of things that seem pretty second nature are quite scary to people. But as I was saying earlier, it's kind of like when Express LRS came out and people saw how you flash something, and it's like, oh my god, my mind's just blown. And either that became more commonplace, or
we were
the flashing thing became more friendly.
Exactly. We were flashing
So
back at that time,
can get
2-3 years ago, when Express LRS was under development. I was doing that as well. I was going outside and testing the Express LRS and reporting back to the guys. But it's not that hard. I mean, if you follow the guides, if you follow the wiki tutorial, there are some wikis already, and we keep trying to add some more and more stuff every day.
And it is getting better, because it went from a situation with no information at all. And now there's some information. It's a little bit technical, but it's getting better all the time. And that's the
back in August, I learned, because I didn't know that either, right? I learned from the Russian wiki, and I had to translate them, and there was so bad translations in most cases. And I was able to build my first drone as my first OpenIPC drone. I wasn't a developer. I'm not a developer, actually. I'm a nurse. I work in the NHS, okay? So I don't have any software developer background for that. All I have is willing to try and learn new things. Because I prefer to have that as a hobby instead of just buy a ready-made DJI that will cost 600 or 700 pounds and just fly with it. I prefer to build something with my own hands, and that will make me feel proud of what I built, because I will fly it, my own creation. I will fly it my own creation.
So the one comment that we've got here is the footprint. Now, this is kind of a different conversation to what we had with OpenHD, because you've got the video encoder and the camera all in a single unit. You're kind of limited by the size of that circuit board. And I've noticed you build your own drones, but you build kind of big drones, right? So you're running Inav and you've got 8-inch props. For most of us that are building maybe 5 inches,
7
or perhaps
inch.
even
7 inch.
Oh, it's a 7 inch. Okay. Or below a 5 inch, maybe even micros. Do you see a way that this can be used on those systems as well? Is there a way that maybe an adapter can be printed? Is there a way that it can fit into frames in a clever way?
Yes, there is. There is, because I actually did that with OpenHD. I was able to fit inside the OpenHD, inside a 3-inch frame, a Raspberry Pi, a camera, a very large camera, which was actually outside of the frame, to be honest. But it was in a 3D printed mounted. And it was flying great. And I was able to do 8 kilometers with that 3-inch micro. So if you exclude the Raspberry Pi from all this equation, you're removing weight, right? So it's
most
much easier
frames they're
to do
made
it.
to take 19 mil. The old cameras were what, 22 mil, Jack? Was it? Do you think we'll get down to a 22 mil size?
I mean, it sounds doable within a 5-inch, doesn't it? Because you're talking about a camera and a
5-inch. So the iFlight as I'm using the iFlight frame, it's a 7-inch frame, and it fits.
Yeah, loads of space.
It doesn't.
7-inch. Yeah,
I know, but even on a 5-inch, it would fit. It's just the arms are bigger. That's not the difference. I mean,
if you want to put the camera inside the case in a proper camera mount, because the camera, I think,
let me show you.
The circuit boards were 32 by 32 millimeters.
Yeah, it's inside. So it is inside. You see that? It's inside.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if there's a way to make it, if some of us who are flying freestyle and are going to crash a lot, to try and make it so it's in a protected area like you'd have with other cameras.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Well, for that, it will require 3D print something, or maybe in the future, a manufacturer would actually build something for that. But at the moment, everything is DIY. So I'm just using foam around it, and I secure it like that. And believe me, I've crashed several times. Nothing really happened. So
it's a well-made.
It's well protected. And yes, iFlight is quite popular company, and it builds good frames. So also that camera, I have to say that it's quite durable. I mean, you need to physically damage it in order to break. we were having that conversation earlier with Wayne, that I was accidentally flashed the wrong bootloader in both cameras, and I was able to recover them because there are so many hidden ports and pads in these cameras that you can actually unbrick them. I was able to brick them, and I unbricked them. And if you don't know how to do that, there are a lot of developers in our chat, in our channel, in our OpenIPC channel on Telegram, that they are always there willing to help you guys. So please join us.
Well, I guess one bonus is you don't have a ribbon cable anymore, do you? Because the sensor and the board is one.
Yeah.
So
exactly, yeah.
Exactly. That's the thing.
You don't have
to look at to make it go wrong.
And I'm pretty sure that Kargiden already knows that those ribbon cables, they don't tend to be so durable. No. It happened to me. I hated them, to be honest. And I was so happy that we don't need them anymore with these cameras. Yeah. It's one piece of all together, all in one.
I was just going to say, I don't know about how you're feeling, Stephen, but it makes me excited, and I have to try it. And start getting my shopping list together to see how it's all about. So yeah, expect some things from me, Mario.
It's going to be a while before I
can find the right thing
on the little quads, but yeah, it's something I might have a go at on the bench.
Yeah, I think when you're testing this stuff out, it's much less hassle to have more room than you need, because you don't have to start messing around. This is stuff you might want to take off again, mess around with, start messing around with, and like put it back and forth. And when you're talking about squeezing things in, that's when you're like, okay, I'm at my final configuration. Now I'm going to start making bespoke pieces to get it in something much smaller than it was designed for. Very exciting indeed.
Yeah.
Mario,
well done.
Can I ask something, please? Just because I feel like I am actually representing the whole team, but I would really like to shout out their names in your live, so everyone knows the people that they actually behind all this. So yeah, I would like to mention to thank Vasily Evchenko for, of course, his WFB NG. That thanks to that, OpenIPC FPV exists, because we have the full version of that, and OpenHD actually used that as well. I would like to thank Igor Zalatov. I think I'm pronouncing correctly his last name, which is the owner of OpenIPC, and Dimitri Ilin, the owner of Majestic Chronix, for the FPV version. He was the one who actually took the first OpenIPC camera and inserted the WFB-NG in the first camera, and that's how we had the first version of. He's the main developer on FPV version of OpenIPC. And then we have Andrei, of course, I already mentioned him with Who I Am too, for the NVR, which is the VRX that we now have, and Victor XDA, that he also started developing recently, a few weeks ago, for on that new camera, the Sigma Star. There's a code SC338Q, which has the IMX415 sensor. That he has done all this amazing job for the Sigma Star camera, and then Banding for his OSD, and RD, Tipoman, and Kenny Plus as a testers, and also Tipoman is an expert on Atheros Wi-Fi adapters, that he is actually able to help you with even modifying the source code inside the Atheros adapter. So, and last but not least, Narpat Rana, that he actually helped me a lot and supports me in every step that I do. So you can see there are a lot of people that they are involved on this project. It's not just me that I'm just publishing YouTube videos for this project.
Yes, so and I know you asked some of them to come on, but They didn't speak English well enough to do it.
Yeah, none of them can speak that great English. I cannot speak so well English. I mean, I can.
You're great. You're great.
I'm here
really
a few
well.
years. But
man,
yeah,
like,
There's plenty of people in this country who speak English worse than you do. Don't worry about it.
yeah, natively, yeah, native
people who were born here. Yeah.
Yeah, Tony's one of them. It's like grunts. It's like.
Jack, you had a question.
Yeah, Mario. I noticed, like, you mentioned you flew clean flight and then moved straight to Inav. Did you ever try Betaflight, or were you just unaware of it, or did the name put you off? Because it's like beta.
Of course. Yeah, I flew Betaflight several times. The only downside about Betaflight is that it doesn't have position hold, and it doesn't have all these navigation systems that Inav has. That's the only thing that I prefer. That's why I prefer Inav. It's just a personal preference, nothing else. And it will be it's fully supported also. Betaflight is supported by OpenIPC as long as there is an Mavlink. It supports OpenIPC. It will work.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they hear Mavlink, they instantly think RD Pilot, but Mavlink is one of the telemetry options you can use in both Betaflight and Inav. It's just a question of what telemetry signal you want to put out.
Exactly. So both Inav and Betaflight now support Mavlink, and that's good news. That's really exciting news, because with Mavlink you can do serious ground stations, not just us that we use them as FPV hobbies for freestyle or anything like that. You can use some professional equipment that you can actually do some serious long range.
And then you
like,
can
for
sell
example,
it and you can fund the project.
Yeah. There are some records of 100 kilometers range, but not in the UK. Yeah. I was able to do a few kilometers. We're not supposed to go beyond line of sight, but so...
It's fine if you've got good eyesight.
Yeah, I mean, if you can see 100, you just need bright LEDs. You can see 100K, it'll be fine.
With bright LEDs, no joke. Someone flew something at night, and there was this big pylon 10 kilometers away he wanted to get to, and he turned on his LEDs, and we could still see it. That's how bright they were. So line of sight, 10K, no problem.
Okay.
So I asked if you could fit them in a regular quad, and someone said QCZEC, maybe something like Kaziyek, have 3D printed case. And so there's an image of the case. I found it. There's a printables file, and I guess this is the VRX board that you've got inside your 3D printed case as well. We can look at the size of the VGA port, I guess, to see it's still quite large, but he's got some brass inserts and things. It looks like a nice bit of kit, and then I guess the USB Wi-Fi module that could be elsewhere in the quad behind it, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Just thought it might be give people an idea of what you're looking at. I'm not sure how big that blue box is. It looks like it might be a bit smaller than like a Hero 5 camera.
Well, you got the CR 2032 for scale.
Oh yeah, CR 2032 for scale.
So on that 3D print, I'm guessing that those screws would go somewhere here and here, right? How about do only the sides without the top, and just hold the camera like a sandwich? Because that would reduce dramatically the size of that 3D print. Like have only the sides of that 3D print instead of the whole, because you don't really need the top. You already have the top of the carbon fiber, right? And
so it could be optimized.
The carbon fiber as well.
Yeah,
it can be optimized. Yeah. So like I said, the more people they get involved, the more professional people they get involved on that, the better it will become for everyone.
Cool.
Very nice.
Right.
Very promising.
I must build one. Build them and it will come or something. It's just
38 by 38 mil. Sorry.
Or is that the camera size or the box size?
Is that
The
Goggle?
OpenIPC camera is not.
Not bigger than regular FC, 38 by 38. Sorry for the bar.
Someone read that out.
The IPC cam is not bigger than a regular FC, brackets 38 by 38 millimeters.
Well, a regular FC is like 30.5 by 30.5, but yeah, it's not giant. It's more a
30.5 by
question of.
30.5 mounting holes. You've got to remember there's overhang beyond the
That's
mounting
true. Yeah, it
holes.
comes out. Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is this your dog, Stephen? It's become Larry in the last couple of weeks. What's going on?
I'm having to dog sit today. I apologize if people have to listen to my dog. I'm sorry. I'm trying to mute.
That's fine. I have a dog as well, and his name is Yoshi from Super Mario. Yoshi, Mario.
I hope
My
you
dog
don't
name is
sit on
Roshi.
his back and punch his head. Is that what Mario's
So-
doing to Yoshi? It looks like it.
It looks consensual, but you
Aw.
can't tell. Hey, he just wanted some attention.
Just
Stop
want some
barking now.
attention. This is Bob. Say hello.
Hello, Bob.
She's happy
So-
so long as she can say hello. That's the main thing.
Yeah. The weather is not great lately, but if I build one of these things, I suppose I can just like wait for the right day. I suppose. Has anybody else been flying? Mario managed to get flying today. Lucky him. I thought about going out with the car, but it rained.
I had a small window, a very small window, that it was quite sunny today at some point with scattered clouds. But yeah, for 1 hour, I was lucky. So I just couldn't wait for that to test it, because we built it for the last nearly a month now. And yeah, I just wanted to go out and fly it.
To be fair, with 1 hour, you even used all your lipos, or you've crashed it and it won't fly anymore. That's quite a long time to fly a single quad, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, when you go for a maiden flight for something that no one has ever flown before, you need to go through so many tests and checkings, and again, and check again before. Because if I crashed it, I wouldn't have a second one to test. I couldn't order another one. I had to wait from China to come, and yeah, but I had to go through a lot of checks, pre-flight checks before I take off, and that took some time. So I was able to do 3 good flights. The latency, like I said, was very, very low. I was able to move the sticks and no latency, no delay at all. At 90 frames per second, 1080p. The only problem was, like I said, the settings. I think I put the wrong settings, and I had that blurry. When I was moving too fast, there were some lines coming out from the object.
Yeah. So I suppose
that's
because you've
That's something that we will work on.
yeah, sorry, because you've measured the latency by sort of like filming a TV screen, and you can sort of see the difference in frames by counting it that way. Is there a way of calculating? You obviously you've flown DJI as well, so you're aware that they put their little latency up. Walks now does the same.
We did some
HG0
we
says
did
there isn't
some
any.
tests. We did some latency tests versus a screen with a high resolution timer, a millisecond timer. And we were able to have a 1080p, 90 frames per second, 36 milliseconds.
Is there a way of calculating it so you can put it on the OSD though?
Yeah, I have to say it was fluctuating. It wasn't solid all the time, 36. It was going 36, it was going a little bit higher, then dropping and going up and up. So
that's Wi-Fi, isn't it?
Yes. Also, it's not only the Wi-Fi. Like I said, there is also an encryption to the system, and that could cause some spikes on the CPU usage. The WFBNG might actually add a little bit latency, because in theory, the wireless transmission is instant. It's zero. It travels with the speed of light, right? The Wi-Fi transmission. The problem is that the encoder and the decoder and the WFBNG that is also adding a little bit of latency
and
if it
USB
spikes.
and framing. Yeah.
Yes, but that's why we're not using USBs or anything. We are actually soldering everything. We try to do as small as possible the wires.
So is
we
it
try
PCI
to-
Express then?
Sorry?
I thought the Wi-Fi connection was via USB.
Oh, you mean
Is
the
it via PCI
the
Express
USB
then?
protocol? You mean the USB
Yes.
protocol?
Yes.
Yes. On that, in terms of that, so the transmission is actually very, very small. The latency, the majority of the latency is actually the encoder and the decoder. But these ones we managed to solve them by this camera, the new camera that has 120 frames per second or 90 frames per second.
Is there much of a pipeline? I mean, obviously you're doing 120 frames per second throughput, but like how much pipelining is there from the point when a camera frame is recorded to when it's actually sent out? Are you sending out the frame before you're capturing the next frame is what I'm asking? Or is there like a buffer internally where it's buffering to go into the encoder and it might be holding 3 or 4 frames to be sent into the encoder?
I don't know this answer. Sorry. I'm not so into engineering thing.
Oh, no worries. Just random question because we're getting down to the weeds.
I think that's probably in Majestic what is happening. That's what Majestic is doing. But I'm guessing that every frame is encoded before it's been sent. There is no buffer, I think. Because
so it's straight out. So is it more like a sort of HD0 system? Here's the thing. There you go. There's no sort of error correction. There's no two-way interface to say I didn't get that part of the frame. Send it again.
Well, there's at least one frame buffer to do the encoding, apparently. So one frame. So that's not too bad if it's just one frame worth. Yeah, but
I mean, you obviously need it there to encode
frames. Yeah, because some systems, if you're not careful and you're like copying the data multiple times, you can end up doing lots of copies before the data is sent. But it sounds like they've optimized that, which is great.
Yeah. So also another important thing is the screens, the monitors. So, for example, you can encode 120 frames per second and decode also 120 frames per second, but the monitor will not support them. You will have 60 frames per second monitor, for example. The monitor also adds to the latency, right? Or the goggles in our cases. So you will also need, I was thinking actually to buy the HD0 goggles that has really good lenses inside. The screens are very, very good. So I was thinking actually to use them for OpenIPC because they have very low latency as goggles, only the device of goggles.
You can actually buy the OLED modules if you want to go the whole hog, like a Sony micro display, and then you could avoid because there's actually a frame. Yeah, well, there's a frame buffering when you do the HDMI because you're doing an HDMI signal send, and that's got to go through an HDMI encoder out of the chipset and then an HDMI decode before it hits the panel. So if you're able to drive the panel directly from the VRX, that would be optimal. That's why that the all-in-one goggles are typically faster than goggles with external module.
So that is what Andre. That is what Andre, which is one of the engineers of the VRX, is actually dreaming to do. I mean, he's planning to do a box goggles actually, that will actually have that capability to have low latency. These are in the future plans because you were asking me also the future plans of this project is actually to try to build hardware with the existing components that we have, like improve the existing, like add OLED displays or build goggles for that system.
Give the power back to the people.
Maybe, instead of having some companies selling us all this stuff, we can actually do that as a community, FPV community.
This
Very
has been
nice.
fantastic.
I've learned a lot, and I've learned that I need to look at a lot of wikis mostly to find out a lot more. It's like, oh, here's a lot of information. Now you need to go and learn it. But I think it's been a fascinating chat. It's very rare that people come on and talk about stuff, and I was like, oh, I must start buying stuff and tapping on my keyboard and finding things. But that's been absolutely fascinating. Thanks, Mario, for explaining
Thank you, guys.
a very complicated subject. But hopefully we'll all go in and play with it, and we can sort of make it easier somehow by
As
playing
a
with
follow-up, if people want to get more involved, where can they find you? Where can they find the rest of the OpenIPC FPV team?
So OpenIPC website is openipc.org, right? And there are links there for our Telegram channels. I recently created an official OpenIPC FPV system Facebook group, which they can find us there as well. Yeah, we are there actively supporting and helping everyone. We want people to start getting involved into this. If they know how to write source code, we are more than happy to accept their pull requests on the GitHub. And if someone is happy to spare a couple of pounds for the developers to just buy them a beer or a tea, please do that, because they truly deserve it, because they started this, they bought their equipment to build something for everyone. And I think they deserve a few quids.
Very cool.
Thank you very much. Yep, support the developers. The better
Always
this,
the
the
case.
sooner this can happen, the better. People have been complaining about DJI for years, and to see a serious contender, it's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. Oh, Mario's gone blank. This usually means he's got a phone call coming in from somebody else.
On that note, thanks to our Patreons.
I'm here.
He's here. Mario, you forgot to pay your electric bill. No, he's back. The lights are back on.
I'm not sure what happened now.
We can see you again now. It's okay. You went black for a second, but you're back now.
Can you see me now?
Yes, I
can see you now.
Back.
Okay.
You're back.
Okay.
Okay. We were just about to wind up anyway, I think. So, yeah, we've told people where they can go to find you on Facebook, on the website, and elsewhere. A big thank you to all the developers. Please, if you can contribute to OpenIPC, do so. Help them to get hardware out and to get customized hardware that's better for FPV. And thank you very much for Mario for coming on and explaining it all. Thank you to our scrolling list of patrons at the bottom who help us do the show and keep us going week after week. Yeah. Curry, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, so thanks to everyone on the call, and let's say goodbye to Jack, who's down there.
Thank you for tuning in, guys.
Bye to Mario, and thanks very much for coming on, our special guest.
Thank you very much for making me feel so comfortable, and for the invitation. And it really helped me also as a YouTuber to improve a little bit and get out of my...
We'll see based on videos all the time now.
Yes, you're going to have to do more talking and stuff. Yeah. Believe in yourself.
Okay, guys, I will.
Good.
All right. Thank you for making me feeling so comfortable. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
It's been cool.
Let's say goodbye from Stephen with his lovely moustache.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a good week.
And I am everyone's favourite curry kitten. Goodbye. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.